to you?
Oh man, whenever I do something annoying, the main thing I hear that she says to me is like, "Ay, Alex." I'm just like, sorry.
She's part Italian, and so she uses hand gestures for literally every single word that she does. And it's something that I always get like aggravated by, because we'll be driving and she'll take her hands off the wheel and she'll start telling a story, and she'll just literally use a gesture for every single word. And it like bugs me so much.
I do specifically remember the first Spider-Man coming out and basically assigning that my sole personality trait. Her asking her sister, my aunt, if it was okay for what must have been a 6-year-old kid to go to the theaters to see it, and her buying me a Spider-Man costume before we went, and I wearing it, I think, to the theater, and then every night afterwards, I would sleep in it, and she would let me, you know, I think a lot of parents were just like, no, you can't wear that every night, but no, she allowed me to, and I wore it until the thing just literally was falling off of me because it was too ragged.
When I would wake up and I would hear her voice through the wall, just like, not even a voice, like a murmur of like her voice. And I remember thinking, man, I hope I remember the feeling of like waking up, knowing she's downstairs, like, you know, it's like a Saturday, you know, we get to chill and hang out together. Yeah, that murmur of her voice, I think, is something I hope I keep.
¿Tienes un ejemplo de un tiempo donde te sentiste muy orgullosa de tu madre?
Cuando ella luchó por nosotros, cuando ella se hizo madre y padre para sacarnos adelante.
You know, I have to be honest with you. It's hard for me to know really what happened with my mom, because my mother never told the truth. She was a chameleon, and she would just tell you people anything they wanted to hear in order to please them.
Always, whatever we did, me and my sister, it was not good enough. We could do it something better. She has those resentments now. She feels it. And every time I go to Greece and see things from the past, sometimes she cries and she cursing herself, says, I should have done that, I should have done better. I should be more open with the money and help you out. And I said, oh, you did it well. I said, don't worry, you make me strong. You know, I went to a country that I knew nobody, and I survived, and I became strong. Probably if I was in Greece, I would not become as strong as I am now.
I don't know if curfew still exists now, right? But it was like probably 9, 10 p.m. We were walking down Cattaraugus under the freeway. A patrol car passes us, and my friends go, you know, being obnoxious, they get the police's attention. They asked for my ID, and I gave them my school ID, and they're like, yeah, no, you're underage, dude, so get in the car. I get home, my mom's waiting for me right in front. You know, she plays it up all nice, like, oh, thank you for bringing my son home. And as soon as the cops leave, man, I mean, you know, my mom was a very small woman, but man, the fear she struck in my heart, man. I'll never forget that fear.
I would refrain from calling her my best friend because I think she would find that weird, but I really do think in so many aspects my mom is my best friend. She wanted to be very involved in our lives and kind of make our childhoods magical. So, you know, there'd be, if it was like a birthday party or something like that, she'd make like handmade invitations for our birthday. So I remember my mom like being on the living room floor while we were watching TV and like cutting out little things to make each individual like card to invite everyone in our grade. My memory of my mom is I don't really quite remember her ever sitting down. I think she was a woman that was constantly moving.
So there's 4 kids, and the last 2 really pushed my parents a lot to like be more understanding. Both my mom is, my dad was, born and raised in Nigeria. She was 22 when she got married and came here. I couldn't imagine coming so far from home, away from all your family. You're married to somebody who you don't know, who has all these issues going on mental health-wise, and your relationship is just not strong. It made me respect her even more. And I don't think she thinks of it as marvelous or anything. It was just like what you needed to do.
I was with my fiance at the time. She was taking us to dinner in New York City, and we were in a restaurant, and my mom is telling my fiance all about Chateau Loire in France and how beautiful it is. And you know, she has this French accent, and you know, she said, oh my God, the gardens are spectacular. And she's going on that how you walk in the garden, and you smell this and that. She's going on, you know, all the sense memory. And then I look at her and I said, but Mom, you've never even been to France. She kicks me under the table and she looks at me and she says, what does that matter?
Yo lo que recuerdo de mi madre es que ella me cuidó mucho a mi hija cuando yo vine a este país y ella mucho la quería. Mi mamá siempre nos protegió a todas nosotros. Cuando mi padre nos abandonó, ella en el país de nosotros, ella trabajó mucho para levantarnos a nosotros.
Sacarlos adelante.
Ajá.
The earliest memory I have with my mom, it was just sitting at the top of the stairs, hearing my mom and dad yell at each other. There were moments where she would tell me things about my father, or how he thinks about me, and how he may like one of us more than the other, or things like that. And there were just a lot of, I think, mind games being played that we have since made up. Like, we have talked about this. A lot of it was kind of repressed on my part, in terms of the things that she had kind of told me. And a lot of this I found out later through court documents and going online and reading things for myself, because I remember my parents, you know, trying to insulate us from the specifics of what was going on kind of behind the scenes. But the stuff that I had kind of been through was not necessarily crystallized until later in life. And that was a conversation we had together.
If you're talking to her and you express like, oh, I'm going through this hard thing, or, you know, I once asked her when I was older, like, what was I like as a child? And she said, you cried a lot. And I was like, okay. I think I did ask her, like, did you comfort me? And she said, I tried to. So she did her best, I think.
So this is the unfortunate thing. Either you take the criticism of your mother and you are strong for the rest of your life, or you damage for the rest of your life. You become an insecure, miserable person, and always you blame your mother, you know? But I was fine, I think. I'm fine, I hope. She grew up at the village of the northern part of Greece, Macedonia, and she was born 1935. So she lost her father, the revolution that the Greeks against the monarchy. So he was a part of the Democrats. So he was killed at that war. And my mother was about, I believe, 3.5 years old. And they threw his body at the river. So that was traumatized her. And also my grandmother, she was practically very young, probably 21 years old. And she became a widow. And then it became the war, the Second World War. And the northern part of Greece was controlled by the Bulgarians because Hitler allowed them to take that part and control it. And my mother was like 4 years old, so they were starving, they were dying on the street because the occupied force, they will take everything they had, the stocks, the wheat, everything, corn, nothing. So she learned the language very fast, so she would go to the officers while they were eating lunch. She was asking if they have any leftovers, and finally a little cute girl, they would give her food. Of course, she would go back home, was very proud that she brought a little piece of bread, and then my grandma would spank her because she asked something from, from the enemy, right?
O si había un cambio ya cuando llegaste de niña a adulto.
Oh, sí, porque yo entendí cómo ella se sacrificó por nosotros, y entonces lo que ella nos dio, entonces yo también se lo ofrecí a mi hija. Las buenas costumbres y para que ella tuviera lo que nosotros no tuvimos, ella lo tuviera.
She was very insistent on making sure that my brother and I never failed. And I know that came from a place of like good intentions and love, but I think in her desire to never let us fail, there was a lot of things that she took control of and didn't let us necessarily, I think, have the experience of trying and failing and learning from.
Okay, I was raised to admire my mom. I was her audience. She was an incredibly productive person, incredibly talented, beautiful woman. There's nothing she could not do. She was an outstanding seamstress. She built furniture, she stuccoed walls, she did rock gardens, she farmed. I don't think there's anything my mother could not do. She shouldn't have been a mom. I don't know, I twisted myself in a pretzel to try to get her love and acceptance and try to measure up. And it just wasn't there. And then there was a lot of neglect. But there was a lot of inappropriateness, like a lot of sexualization in the house, a ton. And they would do things in front of us that were not appropriate. The problem with that is that if you're being sexual in front of your kids and you're framing it like play, then your kid thinks, oh, that's how we communicate, that's how we play. I don't want her to look like a villain, because she was a narcissistic disorder, but you know, we're all created by our childhoods, and that's how she survived. That's how she got through that.
I just like, she also grew up in imperfect conditions, making imperfect decisions in imperfect scenarios, and I think life is too short to hold grudges in that way, and I think I've been able to heal from that just having those conversations with her.
I think when I was a kid, I had this desire to connect with them emotionally, and I felt as though they just didn't want to. That they knew themselves, they could share, they just didn't want to. They were holding themselves back from me. And then I read this book in my 20s, in like mid-20s, and I realized they don't know themselves. They don't know their own emotions. They didn't know how to deal with their own trauma and difficulty and even their own joy or whatnot. So they couldn't share. And I think when I understood that, I kind of stopped expecting a full assessment of how she felt at certain times or how she's feeling. When I talk to her on the phone and we catch up and she's like, oh, this thing happened at work. I understand that the way she emotionally processes is very different than me, and that I think the biggest thing is that I realize she's not holding anything back from me. She can give what she can. And if she could, she would probably, but she can't. You know, it's not, sometimes it isn't there, or it's not possible.
I feel like not really having my dad played a big role in my life and the way I saw life. So seeing her at the basketball games or the swimming competitions or, you know, at all the school events, like that's a memory that I'll always cherish, you know, is that she always, you know, showed up for me.
So we see our parents differently when we are like 9 years old. Then we become teenage, those difficult age. We have constantly arguments, whatever, our own revolution. And then when we grow up and we mature, we have our own kids, then we see our parents with a different view, completely different. Because now we are at their shoe. We have to deal with, like I have to deal with a teenager, I have to deal with a young girl, so now I know how my mother felt, you know. And I learn from her mistakes, so I try to improve. I hope I'm doing as good as she did, so let's see.
A nosotros casi no nos hizo falta nada porque mi mamá trabajaba mucho. Y a mi hija, cuando vinimos aquí, le di, ¿cómo te dijera? Le di más de lo que nosotros nos dieron, o sea que yo estudié en mi país. Llegué hasta el tercer año de abogacía en mi país. Y yo vine aquí ¿cómo decirte? A hacer nada.
Yeah.
Entonces, yo quise que mi hija se graduara para que no sufriera. Porque cuando yo vine a este país, fue lo peor que pudo haberme pasado. Porque yo nunca me imaginé que iba a venir aquí. Solo por la guerra de mi país, yo vine aquí. Si no hubiera pasado eso, yo no hubiera venido aquí. Entonces, yo no terminé mis estudios allá. Entonces, yo quise que mi hija terminara eso.
Si tuvieras una última vez para decirle algo a tu madre,
¿Qué le diría?
Ajá.
que la quiero mucho.
My mom always tells me that on her deathbed I'm gonna regret all the times that I was mean to her, and all the times that I got bothered by the things that she did, like her hand gestures. So I think I would apologize first for all the times that I got irritated with her. And I think honestly, it's such a hypothetical thing, I can't even think of it now because I know I'd be way more emotional if this was actually the last time I ever had to say something to my mom. Honestly, I think I would tell her, I don't actually know how I'm gonna, live life without you. As true it is, I don't think there's been a day in my life where I haven't talked to my mom, so I think I would tell her, just how much of an impact she's had on me, and how much I love her, and that I really honestly don't know how I would or am gonna live life without her.
I would say I'd like to be free of her impact on me. But then I don't know. Would it be nice to be someone else? It'd be nice to be someone else who really loves themselves deeply. I care for myself now. I do love myself. But I'm 65, and I'm just coming to that. And you know what? I tell my clients, and I'm waiting for that day for me, right, completely, that they talk about, I don't think I'll be able to forgive some things, that have happened to them. And I will say to them, when you're healed, you won't need to forgive because you won't be limited by that anymore. So there won't even be a reason to forgive because it won't be holding you back. And I just wonder if I'm there or if I'm not there yet.
Actually, I said it, I told her this summer when I went to Greece because, she's going through dementia now. Thank God she's very steady. But I don't want to come the moment that she will not recognize me anymore. Although the doctors, they said she's 90 years old, she's dealing with dementia for 3 years. Don't worry, stabilize it. I don't think she's going to go to that extent. I remember when she did not have the dementia, she was extremely active. The minute I would ready to go to the taxi, go to the airport, she would take a bucket of water and she would go outside in the street and throw it. I said, what that's supposed to mean? Was that black magic or something? Buddhist? She goes, no. I want you to go smooth like the water and return to the earth, back to Greece the next time. So now the emotional thing is every time I leave, it's like she doesn't know if she will see me again. So she cries. So she says, for how long am I going to be alive, you know? And it's the same with me. So that's why I try to cherish the moments now, because one day it's going to be over, you know, but this is life, you know. So I've been with her 65 years, right? Most part of my life is with my mother, like most of us. So one day she's going to be gone, so I have to cherish the moment now.
The last thing I would say, yeah, probably just thank you and good job, you know, which I think we tell her, like, just an amazing mom. So probably would tell her, yeah, just like some version of thank you.
Mothers, being a mother, you have the power of definition over your children. And that is a really supernatural power that I don't think a lot of us think about. They hold up old mirrors to you.